G'day, my name is Warwick Marsh.
And I'm Mahlburg.
And it's great to be with you today. We are here to encourage you about what you're doing at this revival conference. And each of you have received a book that Kurt and I have had the pleasure of writing. And we'd like to tell you a bit about this book and why we think that this conference is so important. A couple of years back, 3 years ago, I was planning with Kurt to write a book about prayer and fasting, the atomic power of prayer and fasting. We'd been talking about it for 6 months, but the Holy Spirit kept prompting me that I had to write a book about revival. And I thought, what's that? Not sure. I love revival. I've read 40, 50 books about revival. It's my passion, but it wasn't something I'd planned to write about. And so I rang up Kurt, half expecting him to say no. He said, that's a great idea, Warwick. So then I talked to my wife thinking that she might say no. She said, well, I don't mind if you write a book about revival as long as it's about the ending of abortion. And of course, Kurt and I are both revivalists, but also reformers. And we want to see change, not just a great meeting and great attendance at church, but we want to see our culture shifted through Christ and the power of Christ. So we set about writing this book. And I must say, the one thing I believe revival is, it's about a new love relationship with Jesus Christ, a new revelation of who Jesus is. And the quote from Stephen Alford sums it all up. Revival is ultimately Christ himself, seen, felt, heard, living, active, moving in and through his body on earth. Over to you, Kurt.
Yeah, I want to add to Warwick's comments. We are so encouraged that you guys are at this conference, that you're gathering together, praying for revival, and we do encourage you to read this book. It's been a labor of love. It was an absolute pleasure to write. I've been writing for probably 5 years straight now, all sorts of different topics, and I have to say, this particular book is the most enjoyable project I've ever worked on. Partly that's because it's about my home country of Australia, which I love. Partly because in researching for it and writing about it, I learnt so much myself about the history of revival in Australia. One of the things that we really learned and then tried to emphasize through this book is that there's a myth or a misconception that revival has been very rare in Australia's history, and I want to assure you that that is absolutely not the case. Revival has happened over and over and over again. Even the first fleet, when it came to Australia, we've got a whole chapter on this. When the first fleet came to Australia, there were so many intentions, both with the men who were on the ship and men who were sending from England, to see the Great Southland of the Holy Spirit become a place where the gospel is spread, an outpost to the Pacific Islands. So God has always had amazing intentions for our nation, and he has brought about revivals over and over again. It's a super encouraging read. And so, we just want to thank you once again for being part of this conference. And we want to encourage you to keep praying for revival, because as Stuart Piggin says, he's an authority that we quote a lot in the book. He says that revival is the engine of history. And I really believe that. Warwick and I really believe that when God brings about revival, he changes absolutely everything. He doesn't just change the church. He doesn't just change the hearts of believers, but he actually changes whole cultures and whole nations. And that is why Australia needs revival. And that's why we are delighted that you're praying for it.
So enjoy reading this book. And on behalf of Kurt, who really is the real genius behind this book, I just want to say a huge thank you and God bless you.
God bless.